All right, let's hop to it. Okay. All right. So today is going to be like, we're going to cover a lot of ground in the book because I really want to get to some more fun stuff. So we're gonna just be trudging through some of that reading that we did. Anybody else do the reading? Actually, hold on, let's rewind a little bit first. Anybody have any victories or stuff from the stuff we're working on? Anybody do their latest net sheet? Any lessons learned or ahas? Anything about wealth?
So I haven't done the net sheet yet, but for the last, I don't know, 15 years, I've had all my expenses down to the penny, literally on a spreadsheet. So my next thing is to do that, is take that and see where I can cut. That spreadsheet helps me to find out where I can cut and what I don't need. And it's a really good view, but the sheet takes it to another level, and that's definitely what I'm going to do.
Absolutely. That's great. Anybody else? Lessons learned? Any comments about things money related? All right, well, let's hop to it. Okay, so where did we leave off in the book? And by the way, I don't know if you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, but I've really enjoyed what we just read. Okay, so I remember we worked on our big why, and we talked about big models, big goals. I remember we did that. And I think that was about it, right? All right, so what's up, Ray? We're on page 88 of said book. It was fun hearing, I was just telling these guys, it was fun hearing Gary Keller talk about the MREI book this morning and just talk about how, so many other real estate companies, it's just all about how to make, how to sell houses and everything. And we believe that's part of the equation, but we also want to all learn together how to take that and parlay it and turn it into wealth. All right, so okay, so today we're going to probably trudge through a bunch of material in the book, and
is that a Padres hat? Oh
no!
Oh, LA.
Padres! Oh my God! Oh,
I figured that might give you a stroke.
No, I'm a huge Dodgers fan. I'm a huge Dodgers fan.
I'm kidding with you, man. It's all good. They're doing good.
Did anybody see that come from behind victory last night?
Yeah. Wow.
4 home runs in the 8th inning, back to back, and then almost another home run, and then another home run. That's pretty awesome. Okay. Don't get me started because we have some stuff to cover today. I could easily we talk about baseball for the next hour.
It was 11-9, right? Final was 11-9, right?
It's a good question. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I thought it was 11-9. Dodgers won. So, anyway.
Oh yeah, yes. The final was it was 11-9. Yes. Okay, so we're talking Think Money Matters on page 87. We all have a fundamental choice in our. So I'm gonna. Let me just, all right, be honest, I don't care, like this, we're all in this together, like I'm not your teacher. Who's read where we're at and who hasn't read? Because it will depend if I should cover everything or if I should just kind of open it up to like, what was everyone's ahas?
I got to page 82, to be honest. I didn't quite make it to 88.
All right, all good.
I'm right there too. So okay. Right about 82.
All right, cool. So I'm going to push ahead here and kind of summarize some of the things that we're going to be covering over, and then you guys can catch up in the book later. I do recommend reading everything. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so on page 87, he talks about Think Money Matters. He says we all have a fundamental choice in our financial lives, right? The path of earned income or the path of unearned income. We've been talking a lot about that. Earned income, we work for our money. Unearned income, our money works for us. In other words, you can, in other words, you can work for your money or money can work for you. Great. On one path, you get paid only for what you do. On the other, you get paid no matter what you do. One path is well worn and the other is largely undiscovered. Most people have not taken their financial education seriously. And then he talks about millionaire investors by choice. They're students of the financial wealth building game. And every week that we come here, every week that we have these discussions, every week we talk and analyze some properties and all that stuff, we're gaining more and more knowledge about our financial literacy, right? Okay, the next page talks about the pursuit of the knowledge of money, its history, its rules, and its disciplines became a primary focus for them. They sought mentors, read books, listened to tapes, and attended seminars. Further on, he says, the goal of this book is to get you on the positive, life-changing path to passive income as quickly as possible. At the end of that path is a place called financial wealth, where you have enough money working for you that you no longer have to work for money. But that kind of passive income doesn't happen by accident. You first have to get educated and then make investing a priority in your life. That education begins with the money matrix. That's what we're going to cover next. Money matrix, there's a figure 5 on page 89. By the way, I think I'm usually a big fan of all of Gary Keller's little charts and figures in his books. I thought the one on page 89 is one of the ones I did not like at all. I just thought it was really confusing. And then when you read about it, it's just all about how you prioritize different things in your life. Okay. He says the most powerful model for understanding the use of money and the building of financial wealth is the money matrix. So there's 2 pyramids in the money matrix, one pointing up and the other pointing down, reflecting the contrasting financial priorities of investors and consumers, right? The essential difference between investors and consumers is the importance they place on the 4 roles of money. So you've got the 4 roles of money, capital, right? That's money that you can invest in anything that's expected to grow in value. Cash flow, money generated from those investments. Cash, money that you hold on the sidelines in reserve for either for security to make sure you're covered. Oh, someone's trying to get in. So cash, we want to, as we start accumulating properties and stuff, we want to always have some cash, enough to cover in case the property gets hit by a tornado and needs, whatever happens, we just want to have enough to carry us through, basically to cover anything that insurance won't, and those kind of things, vacancy, all this kind of stuff. But even in our personal lives as well, right? We want some cash. So you either hold money reserve either for security or so that later on you have some free capital that you can take another investment, right? That's another reason why you keep money on the sideline. Okay. Investors build their financial lives on capital while consumers build theirs on consumptions. And you can see that's those 2 different pyramids on page 89. Investors understand that your first financial priority has a cascading effect on your financial life. In other words, what you do with your money in the beginning will dictate what you're able to do in the end. It's about your financial priorities, what you actually do when you receive money. While investors see money as an opportunity to invest, consumers see money primarily as an opportunity to spend, right? Pretty clear. When you invest in capital first, an amazing thing happens. Slowly but surely, your money starts to work for you. Amazingly, your money is now making you even more money. And each year, as you invest more of your income in capital, the cash flow it creates grows in significance. Suddenly, you find that you're well along the financial wealth building path of passive income. And an ever increasing percentage of your income is being earned by your money, not by you. The game millionaire real estate investors play is to see how much unearned income they can generate from their investments. In the end, it all comes down to a person's ability to prioritize investing over spending, to value capital more than consumption. Many of the millionaire real estate investors we interviewed reported making some short-term sacrifices for long-term gains while they were building a foundation for financial wealth. Not only did they invest a relatively large percentage of their earned income, they also overcame the impulse to squander any extra income generated from their investments. Instead, they reinvested the lion's share of their cash flow in additional capital to accelerate the financial wealth building process. All right, let me just keep reading a couple little tidbits here, and then we'll open up for comment. So he's talking about consumers on page 92. He says they allow consumption to dominate their thinking. And then he goes on, consumption is not entirely a bad thing. Consumption has 2 distinct forms. On the one hand, you spend money on yourself to satisfy your needs and wants. Whoops, hold on, someone's trying to get in. But on the other hand, you can spend money for the benefit of others. I'm talking about taking care of your loved ones and, of course, making contributions to charity, which in my mind is the highest and best use of money. So some really good stuff here. He says later on, he says, ask yourself this question. In which half of the money matrix have you been living? Does your income go straight out the door in the form of consumption? Or do you always designate a substantial portion of your earned income for direct investment into capital? I can't overemphasize how important it is to take a moment to understand the money matrix. Your financial priorities can make the difference between achieving true financial wealth and falling prey to the allure living in the world of shadow wealth. Any ahas so far? Bullet points?
Yeah, I think the frame of mind where you're not thinking money to consume, but thinking about money to invest and grow that money instead of just consuming things and having things instead of actually growing your money is amazing. It's definitely an aha moment, because we're always like, we're taught to, oh, I want this, I want that, I want that. And it's just all things that are, really not important in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So
So
when you start to think differently, you have that aha moment. And this book definitely helps you do that.
that's such a great point, Sharon. I know just from doing this once a week, meeting up with you guys and doing the little homework that we've got between, I know my thinking is, not that I wasn't, I've had a little bit of this going on, but it's definitely kind of solidified and made me more investment minded since we've been meeting up once a week. So that's awesome. Anybody else want to point anything else out?
I think also too, just to piggyback on what Sharon said, I mean, as far as when it comes to consumption, it's like our society is all about instant gratification. And I like the part on the bottom of page 90 where he goes, many of the millionaire real estate investors are interviewed reported making some short-term sacrifices for long-term gains while they're building a foundation for financial wealth. So listen, the bottom line is this: if it was so easy to build wealth, everybody could do it. Everybody would be able to do it. So it's where the sacrifice comes into play, and you look at opportunities to invest. And it's funny with my kids, it's not just like investing from a financial standpoint, but I tell them to invest in themselves when it comes to their schooling and learning. Is that you keep, like, that's why we practice the reading every day. And I know I'm going off on a tangent when it comes to I love the keyword investing, because it's like getting that return, right? But I with my two boys, I emphasize that more and more, the value of investing in themselves.
Yeah, such a great point. I love that. By the way, a couple other things that came to mind from what Gary Keller was talking about this morning. One thing he said was that I found fascinating. He said, if everybody who had it when they had a child bought an investment property when their kid was born, and not even like talking in LA where things are like $1 million. He's talking just like Midwest, where you can buy a house, single family house, still for like under $200,000 in a lot of places. He said, by the time your kid gets to college, even if you put 5% down or whatever and finance almost the entire thing and rent it out, by the time your kid gets to college, you'll have enough money there to put him through whatever school you want to. Like, his college education would be paid by that alone. Like, that's amazing. That's wild. And the other thing that he said too, the other point that I took note of, he said, this book is really more like two books in one. The first 100 or so pages, what we've been reading, is a lot about setting the stage, or it's all about how the mindset of a millionaire investor. And it kind of sets the stage. There's a lot of personal finance and philosophy kind of stuff. And then the which we're getting to right now, the book then turns into all about investing in real estate, like the actual, what you'd think a real estate investing book. And he said he always got frustrated, like all these real estate investing books never talked about the part that we've been reading. They only talk about the X's and O's and the numbers. And he's like, what all the part that we've been doing up to this point is equally as important. So I thought that was really cool. Anybody else? All right, let's trudge on. All right, so 94, think net worth. Every day an undeclared game is being played out. It is a serious game of individual achievement with both winners and losers. And if you want to win and win big, you have to know how to keep score. The question is, do you know your score? He goes on, your financial wealth is your net worth, which is what you own minus what you owe. The trick to financial clarity is to look past your earned income to your unearned income, and then beyond that to the underlying source of that unearned income. While almost everyone who talks about investing emphasizes cash flow, people probably don't place as much importance as they should on the origin of that cash flow. And then he goes on, I would argue that the fundamental wealth building number you should focus on and track is your net worth. It's the golden goose, which, by the way, that's what we've been doing, right? So the only two things of like quote homework we've had so far, other than just reading ahead and keeping up, is calculate your net worth and start not just do it once. He says the real power is doing it on a month. He and Jake both talk about doing it on a weekly basis, which shit, I might start doing, honestly. My wife and I talked about it, but if nothing else, please do it at least monthly. And there's that form that's in the Facebook group that's all about how to do that. The net worth tracker. So he goes on, each week I would update my net worth worksheet. So again, he's talking about doing it weekly. Okay, through this weekly process, I discovered that knowing your net worth, this is where I got that from. Knowing your net worth, while an eye-opening process, is really only half the battle. The greatest clarity comes when you also track your net worth over time. When I did that, I started to notice which financial decisions had the greatest positive impact on my financial wealth. As a general rule, investing made my net worth go up and consumption made it go down. And then he goes on, not all assets are equal. Some appreciate while others depreciate. For example, when I purchased a car, even though it was an asset, it was a depreciating asset and my net worth went down. In contrast, when I invested in real estate, an appreciating asset, although I incurred debt, my net worth went up. Most people don't think of their homes as an investment when they buy them. It's only later, after a few years of appreciation and equity buildup, that they say, my house was the best investment I ever made. I would make the case that owning a home might be the most important accidental asset most individuals will ever acquire. He talks about millionaire investors also grasp the effect home ownership has on net worth and were compelled to ask the following questions. How much faster would my net worth grow if I owned more real estate? How fast would it grow if someone else paid down the mortgage? What if the rent they paid more than covered the property's expenses and generated positive cash flow? Once you begin to think net worth, it is only natural to begin to think real estate. And this is where the book makes its big turn, because from here on out, we're going to talk all about why real estate, and then how to do real estate, and then how to calculate it, what to do with it, how to find the money. From here on out, it's all about real estate. So welcome to, the second half of the book, which I'm sure is probably for a lot of you guys, like what you've been anxious to get towards, anyways, so here we go. Number 5, think real estate. By the way, this whole first part of think real estate is really cool, but we're going to skip it. Our research and experience show that no other investment has had as consistent and powerful an effect on the average person's net worth as real estate ownership. And the reasons why are on page 99. Anyone want to read that in the box there?
Sure, I'll read it.
Awesome, Sharon.
Accessible. Number 1, accessible. Accessible. Anyone can buy it. 2, appreciable. Increase in value over time. Leverageable. Buy on margin and borrow against equity. 4, rentable. Cash flow. Cash flow. Cash flow. 5, improvable. Sweat equity. 6, deductible. Depreciable. Deferrable. Great tax benefits. 7, stable. Slow to rise and slow to fall. 8, livable, shelter in more ways than one.
And what we're going to be reading now is all these reasons, right? And I'll tell you that by the time you get to the end of it, you just think like, my God, why would anyone do any, especially if you have our career, like you'd be crazy to want to get in. And I've done weird things, man. I've invested in real estate tax liens and weird shit, I mean, when you read this, you're like, why would anyone do anything else? Unless there's like a temporary reason or something. So let's go through these. So accessible. He talks about how, where is that? Real estate is remarkably accessible to investors. Not only is it easy to understand and easy to find, more significantly, it's easy to finance. In addition to a wide variety of conventional and government-supported mortgage loan programs, there are many sources of private and owner financing. He goes on, the biggest reason why real estate is so accessible is that it provides significant insurable collateral for any mortgage, no matter who the lender is, institutional or individual. When loans are secured by real estate, lenders feel well secure. This is why you see when you look at the big picture of investing, and that's a huge reason why real estate remains so accessible to all. The second reason is it is appreciable. It increases in value over time. This is due to two primary factors. First, general inflation drives up the replacement cost of housing. And second, there is the influence of supply and demand. As the population increases, so does the demand for housing. This makes sense because, as research shows, in the modern era, real estate consistently has increased in value at a rate of about 6.1% a year, outpacing inflation by an average of 33% a year. See figure 12. Okay. But here's the kicker, is that real estate is also leverageable. The 6.1% appreciation rate mentioned earlier may not seem a lot, but that figure is actually a little deceiving. It doesn't take into account the fact that practically no one pays all cash for a home or a real estate investment. In reality, almost everyone finances most, if not all, of the price through a mortgage. And then he goes on, for example, so this is really important. If you take a look at figure 13 on page 102, if you paid cash for a property, right, it would appreciate at 6.1%, like we just talked about. However, and now again, I know these dollar signs are small, but if you just put a zero in front of them, it's very much like along the lines of LA. A person may have put down only $300,000 on a $1.5 million house. If that leveraged property has appreciated 6.1% to 1.59150, the 90,000 gain should be weighed against the $300,000 investment, not the $150,000 price, $1.5 million price. A gain of $90,000 on $300,000 translates to a 30.5% rate of return on the investment. So that's awesome. Like if you got a place and it goes up 6.1% and you financed almost all of it, you financed 80% of it, right? Put 20% down. That means that your actual rate of return on that investment is 30.5%. That's solid. I mean, that is really hard to find in some mutual fund or some index fund or something. I mean, sure you can, but it's not nearly as stable. And, you know, everybody kind of following that logic. David, you've been very quiet today. You want to comment on that at all?
I'm trying to absorb all this kind of stuff here because, I'm familiar with all this kind of stuff because I'm doing it. And as a matter of fact, what I did was this last month or so, I tried to refinance the property that I had because the return on equity was so bad on that property that didn't make sense anymore to keep it. So instead of selling it and going through the 1031 exchange and paying taxes, I decided to refinance it and get a cash out. And that way I have more equity right now that I can buy another one. And I still have this one. I don't have to pay taxes on that one. I don't have to deal with 1031 exchange. I still have it. Now I can move that cash to something else that would have a return, more return on that equity.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's awesome. I love that. And by the way, that's exactly what he's going to talk about right here. Once you build up an equity position in an investment property, you can leverage that investment for cash in one of two ways. You can secure a secondary loan against the increased equity, or like David just talked about, refinance the original loan amount plus the increased equity. Remarkably, the leverage advantage can work two ways. You can buy a property for dimes on the dollar, and you can convert any equity gains into cash without selling the asset, as David just talked about, right? And that cash, remember we talked about, why do you want cash? We just talked about this earlier, for either increased security or to invest in something else. And David's talking about reinvesting it, but you may have wanted to take out more cash. Like say you did want to buy something else, you may want to keep, now that you have more property, you may want to keep more cash on the sideline, just so that you've got more, so that you're not as you're not over leveraged, and you have enough money to cover, even if both properties end up being not rented for a few months or whatever you calculate to hedge against risk.
At some point, you get to a point, at the beginning, it is true. At some point, when you have so much of a cash flow from all the properties, really, truly, that reserve, it becomes really insignificant.
Yeah,
It's not as important as it is when you have little cash flow. When you have a lot more cash flow later on, then it doesn't really matter how much reserve you have, because at any point you can really get money coming in every month.
yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. If you don't work, it doesn't really matter.
And the other thing too is, like, you can have an equity line or something that's,
Absolutely.
if you have a bunch of equity, you can have an equity line or something. And that also is, it's kind of like refinancing, but it's like, it's waiting there for you in case you ever needed it for whatever,
Absolutely.
your home gets struck by an asteroid or whatever, you can, yank out some equity and put it in and reinvest it to take care of whatever problem. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. Okay, the next major bonus of real estate is the cash flow it can generate. Real estate is rentable. It continually amazes me that I can purchase a property and then turn around and rent it to a person who will pay down my debt in exchange for living there. In reality, that's what renters do. They pay your mortgage, which builds your equity. I mean, that's just awesome. And then he goes on.
And I gotta make a funny comment here.
Yeah.
Somebody said that if I have 30 doors, it's just like you have 30 employees that every day you send them off to work to bring money for you. So that's how it is. You send all these people out to get money for you.
Yeah, just just awesome. Okay, he goes on to say, the next thing he says is that real estate is also improvable. Because real estate is a tangible asset made of wood, brick, concrete, and glass. A millionaire investor knows you can improve the value of any property with some tools and a little elbow grease. By the way, this is, again, yet another time when we as realtors have a leg up on the average person, because we have so many connections. And by the way, say you have a plumber and you've given him 10 referrals over the last few years, you can call them up and be like, hey, Joe the plumber, hey, this is Ed. Hey man, I need a favor for you. One of my personal properties has a problem, blah, blah, blah. Can you, what's the best? Can you cut me a deal or something? Because I really need some help on this one. You can kind of leverage that relationship, and most people will give you like a half price or something. If you've been giving them a lot of business, they will like take care of you when it's your personal deal. I mean, and that's so many, you can do that in so many ways around, just all around everything related to real estate, because so many people are used to getting referrals from us. At least if you're doing your job right, you should have a pool of, you should have a plumber, an electrician, a contractor, a painter, everybody else who you've been giving business to for years. And then when it's time for you to need something, you can lean on them and get your, I mean, some people will paint your home for free or like, for a fraction of the price it would have cost. Anyways, you get what I'm saying. He also says, this is kind of more intricate, but you could also increase the value of your property in a more subtle way by changing its zoning or its use, converting vacant lots into parking lots, and converting apartments into condos are a couple of common examples of adding value through creativity. He goes on from there, and let's kind of stop there. If you ever, I'll stop on page 105. If you ever needed proof that the government wants you to own real estate, look no further than the many tax benefits the government has given it. The three that stand out the most are that it's deductible, it's depreciable, and it's deferrable. I mean, Yeah, so awesome stuff. We'll leave that there. And let's see, we've got some time. First of all, before we do this, any ahas or lessons learned? Everybody loving what we're doing so far?
Yes, actually, my son's coming over tonight and we're going to discuss this book.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, he's 21 and I want him to do different because I didn't know this when I was 21. So he's going to be equipped with this because I feel like this should have been a textbook in school.
Yeah, I so agree. There's a few of these financial books that I so wish I had read them in my early years and built some great habits. And I love that we can help our kids have different habits than we had. So I love that. All right, so where's my forms?
I was gonna say, sorry, but especially Kawasaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. That book in particular radically changed my life in the span of about 3 months. Like I was working on, I was trying to make it as an actor and a writer, and I read that book while on set, and I was like, what the hell am I doing? I was like, I want this, like, and so I, quickly changed my life and did some things different. So I so appreciate that, right? All right, hold on a second. Trust sort of, yes. Okay, so I've got open my. Okay. Somebody want to pick out a property? Anybody know of anything you guys want to? Let's do another property somewhere. Anyone have a property somewhere around town that they know of that they want us to evaluate? What you got, Ray?
All right, I'm glad that you asked, because I have the MLS printout of a property I've been looking
Sweet.
at.
All right, so hold on, let me share my screen and we'll start plugging in some numbers.
Okay, cool.
Here
Nothing
we
like
go. And-
nothing like a live case study, right?
Yeah, so I mean, and by the way, we're going to be doing these a lot more. Like soon, we're going to be asking everybody to do one of these a week, and that's going to be the homework. And in addition to keeping track, keeping up with your net worth and everything, and we're going to start having some fun with this. And like maybe we'll pick one property and everybody do it separately and see what we came up with to see if what we arrived at. Or maybe everybody pick a different part of the country and we'll pick some property there and see if we can figure it out. But anyways, let's start with the one you've got right now. So here's what I would do. So I've got Ray, Wad.
Okay, Ed, before we go any further, I just want to forewarn you, I'm having issues with my charger on my laptop here. I've been playing around with it for the last 10 minutes. It's not charging. So if worst case scenario, I'll call back on my cell phone just to let you know. Okay.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So what's the address we got there, Ray?
15601 Bonsalo Avenue. It's in the city of Gardena. Let me spell that. B like boy, O like orange, N like Nancy, S like Sam, ALLO. Bonsalo Avenue in Gardena.
All right. What's the list price?
$650. Been on the market less than a week.
What do you figure fair market value is? Like how much you figure you could buy that property for it? And again, what we're going to do here is we're going to plug in temporary numbers, like just first pass numbers. And then what you would do is if it looks good, then you keep looking at the numbers until you feel comfortable to write an offer. And then you want to double check and triple check those numbers during your inspection period, before you close on the property, right? So that's the general rule of thumb. Everybody following?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we figure fair market value is? Do you have a guess on that? You think it's going to go over list price?
I want to say probably, and when I say probably, maybe up to 675, maybe 700.
Let's
And
say
I know that,
675.
I know
Let's
that's
say
a, go ahead.
Let's say you pick it up for 675. Well, for our sake, we'll just leave it at
Yeah,
that. Percent down. Let's say we can do it 25%, but we could also, like, by the way, sometimes we'll want to play around with this just to see how does it affect the property? Like, how does it affect things if we put more money down and all that? Oh, I've got a great idea of an exercise we can do in a few weeks. Like when we start doing more of these, we're
Yeah.
going to pick like a place like like a high-end property that's like, you know, a $3 million property near the beach versus buying several properties, you know, or like a multifamily property for the same amount of money that's a little further inland versus several properties like that, because that's where it starts getting fun, because then you're going to start to realize where the better investments are, and there's different reasons to invest in different places.
Correct. Yeah, this is literally right off the 110 freeway.
Yeah,
So
awesome. Okay, so interest rate, let's say 4%, maybe even less than that, 3.75 right now. Because now remember, this is an investment property, so you're probably not going to get the same as you would if you were living there, unless it's a duplex and you're going to live in half, which by the way is another great thing to do as well. But we're going to not work on that right now. But let's say 25% down. Let's say the fair market is 675, and you're not going to get it at a discount. Based on the pictures, and again, just rough guess, because we don't have time to like, you know, go into this in depth. Do you think it would, how much money do you think it would cost to get this place ready to rent out?
yeah, that's a good question. I was looking at the pictures, and the bathrooms are outdated, carpeted. I don't know, including the bathrooms. It says one, but there's really one and a half.
See, what's fun about this is you could open up a separate spreadsheet
Yeah,
and you could figure out what happens if I redo the bathrooms and what happens if I don't redo the bathrooms. And you can figure out how much would it rent for. I mean, that's the brilliant of this spreadsheet, is that you don't need to, you can make these decisions based on the numbers, not just on like, because you think it, you know, because you think a bathroom is probably, but like you can actually do the calculations to figure out how would that actually play out over time.
yeah. I'm going to venture to guess, and maybe David, you can probably correct me on this, anywhere between 50 to 75 grand, including the bathrooms. But if you don't want to touch the bathrooms, then anywhere between 25 to 50 grand.
Usually I would say about 10,000 per bathroom, rough. I mean, that's a very broad statement because that can be much less or much more. So figure
Right. How's the kitchen? That's the most expensive part.
Mhm.
The pictures show decent, or you can look at it right now, David, on the screen if you're. It's okay, just based on the pictures, the images. It's okay, the kitchen, but it could definitely new countertops and new appliances.
I would say, I mean, and we're just like doing rough passes right now. This is very vague, but I would say you could, from what you're describing, you could probably do quite a bit with $30,000 and be well on your way to renting it out to doing quite well with that.
Okay,
So
Yeah,
let's
remember that you're doing rent is great, not really luxury grade. So what you're
Yeah.
doing is that you're not really
yeah.
looking in a luxury house. So
Yeah.
that's what you
No,
have to consider.
The reason why I'm laughing, because maybe I'm just used to like out here in Redondo Beach and Hermosa, Manhattan, as far as when it comes to remodeling and upgrading, like the cost. So you're right. I mean, Gardena, you're right. It's going to be a rental, so it's not like you have to, top notch and quality, materials.
Yeah, the kitchen is not gonna be $150,000.
What's that?
The kitchen won't be $150,000.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah,
I will say, from knowing Gardena, I will say like my philosophy has always been, I want stuff very clean. So I want fresh coats of paint.
yeah,
And when needed, I'll replace stuff, but just use like basic newer like get some new stainless appliances, but just get like very basic stainless ones. Like you don't want anything high end, but like, stuff that looks nice, like some nice countertops that are very durable.
sure.
That's kind of like what I look for.
Yeah, you could do cost effective. I get it. I understand.
Okay. And so what are we dealing with? Is this a single family, multifamily? What are we talking?
Single family SFR.
Okay.
Single family residence.
So let me do this. And what do we figure we can rent this place out for?
I'm going to venture to say, I did a little research on it, between probably 32 to 3,500 a month.
So how about I'll split it. I'll say 3,450. Well,
Yeah. Okay.
and you can make these more accurate down the road if you want to. Now, I'm assuming this property is for yourself. So we're not going to you're going to manage it yourself. I take it, and probably find the tenants yourself, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome. One more reason why these things are awesome as a real estate agent.
Mhm.
How much do you want to put away every year towards just maintenance?
Hmm,
And that's a really hard question. I know. I never know what the answer is myself. Maybe later on in the book, we'll find a good rule of thumb.
Well,
The answer is,
Ed, for
yeah,
a single family resident, what I do is I buy them the home warranty and I make the tenants responsible for the first $75 each repair. That way they have the skin in the game. And if anything happens, the home warranty takes care of everything.
that's really smart, because a home warranty,
yeah, that's,
a home
great
warranty,
idea.
a home warranty policy won't be no more between $500 to $700 a year,
It's about 475 to 500.
or 75, yeah.
so yeah, let's just do that as the main, there you go. That's our maintenance thing. And that won't cover everything, by the way, but that will cover a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Appliances and,
Now, utilities on a single family home, you shouldn't have anything. Because they're gonna cover, the tenants should pay for all the utilities on a single
Yeah.
family. Property taxes, right? So what we're saying, what is this?
one and a quarter, or one
Yeah,
up to one
so
quarter,
About 8,500.
8,500, is that right?
Yep, about.
1.25, is that what you put in, Dave?
What's
And
that?
then what do we figure it would cost to insure this single family home per year? David, you may know that, right?
Yeah, this one at about 650, you're looking at maybe around $550 to $600 a year.
So $600 a year to be a little on the conservative side. And then there's probably no additional fees unless, I can't imagine there's any HOA fees or lawn care.
No, yeah, I mean, you could hire gardeners, I mean, landscape, I mean,
But usually you have the tenants take care of all that, right?
yeah, that's what I'm saying, that's the only thing.
So that if this is zero, then here you go. Look at this. You put 25% down right out of the gate, you're cash flow positive the first year, bringing in $3,700 a year of cash flow income the first year. So to me, that looks like an awesome investment. I mean, it's really hard right now in California to find places that you can be cash flow positive right from the year one. And here's where it gets fun. So let's see, what does your cash flow look like over as time goes on?
Mhm.
Okay, so where's annual net cash flow, right? There's right here, this is the column we're looking at. And if you look at year one, your cash flow is $3,700. But if you look at year 10, your cash flow in 10 years is going to be $14,000 per year. And by the way, at that time, you will also have a lot more equity. So if you wanted more cash flow, you could take take some cash out. Now that's not going to help your cash flow, but you could take the cash out at that time too. So yeah, and then if you look at, equity in the property, this is where, look at this. Year one, you already have $200,000 worth of equity in the property. By year 10, wherever this is at, $500,000 in equity in 10 years. That's $330,000 right there. Cash on cash. So remember, let me go back to the front page. You're putting in your total cash in is close to $200,000, $198,750, right? That counts for the down payment plus the cost of getting the place ready. And you're getting back $3,700. So the cash on cash is not great, but it's positive. You're 2% right out of the gate. And then over time, it just gets better and better, meaning for the amount of cash you've got in. And when you take in the total ROI, this is where it gets awesome. When the total ROI on accumulated, we want the annual ROI. Where's the total? Here's the total ROI annual. The first year, you're making 21% ROI. Year 10, you're pulling in 32% ROI. That's awesome. That's a great investment. Like where else are you going to get 21% return right now? Can you imagine put in a savings account? You'll be lucky if you get anything back. Maybe like 1% if you're lucky. Not even. There's no one.
Mhm.
So,
That's if you don't do anything.
yeah.
But if you do stacking, your return would be a lot higher than that in 10 years.
To say more about that, David. So what do we mean by stacking?
Stacking means that as your value goes higher, you would buy more properties and you add, because the equity that's sitting there right now is not really doing much for you.
Right.
So you just keep buying more as you go, because 10 years is too long to wait to buy another one.
Yeah.
So you have to think about how you can add value to the property that appraises for more, so you can get more cash out and get more properties.
Yeah. Because remember, the equity is only getting 6.1% return, 6.1% appreciation on average year over year, right? But if we leverage it, we can get a whole lot more than that, because our interest rate on the loan is going to be 3 or 4%. And so you can leverage that and get a lot more than that. So yeah, exactly what David's saying.
Okay, Ed, let me ask you another question. Let me throw a different approach. How about if we look at this in terms of a property to flip
So,
instead of a rental?
so there's a whole nother form for flipping properties.
Yeah,
I don't want to get into that right now because it's kind of a different thing.
okay,
When you're flipping properties, the appreciation, none of this long-term stuff
correct.
matters at all, other than the fact that you just, the part of the issue right now is that it's taking so long to get permits that the time it takes to fully renovate a property can be 18 months. And
Yeah.
that is hard because there's so much volatility right now that being exposed for, like, what if there's a downturn in the next 18 months? You could
Correct.
be severely screwed if that were to happen. It's not very likely, but still it's likely enough that you see, like, the volatility is getting bad enough that that's why you're seeing so many, and it's taking so long to permits are so freaking backed up. Like in Redondo Beach, I knew some people who were flipping a property and they were gonna do everything permitted, and the permits were gonna take about 18 months to get, and they were like, forget it, like, we're just gonna fun and gun it, and they ended up just doing everything not permitted. And I will tell you is that they ended up, like, permit requires in Redondo Beach triple pane windows, right? Which are very expensive. And they were like, well, since we're not doing permitted, might as well put in double pane windows. And that's the problem, is that the minute you don't need permits, now it's up to the contractor to figure out what do they feel like doing, not up to code. And it's just a mess, right? So, but the point being that when you know you're not going to be able to finish your project for 18 months, that's a long time to be out there in the wind where changes in the market have an effect on you. I mean, when I used to flip properties in Texas, we wanted to be in and out in 90 days. Sometimes we made that deadline, sometimes not, but that was the goal, is like 90 days, just get in there and just do whatever we need to do and then get the hell out, so that you move so fast that the market doesn't have a chance to really affect you. Even if the market's going down, you're in and out so fast that 3 months is not going to do you much damage. 18 months, on the other hand, leaves you a lot more exposure because you're out there for a long time you can't sell it yet. You're just stuck watching the market go down, or hopefully go up. But if it starts going down, you're exposed, right?
So Ed, then why on HGTV or all these infomercials about flipping properties is so easy, and now is the best time to do it? Whether it's Property Brothers or Tariq El Moussa, they're telling you now's the best time.
What do you think is the answer to that?
Celebrity status.
I will say that they have found that there's an appetite for people who love flipping property programs, and so they have to keep feeding the beast. I mean, there's some of that, right?
A lot of suckers out there. Yeah.
Well, I say there's no business like show business.
I'm not, if I found a good property, like if this property that you found right now, like I would pull it, if I had the capital, I would pull the trigger on that, like no
I
problem.
know. That's why I was looking through different properties. I thought this might be an opportunity, for rental. Oh, and sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
And one thing I forgot to mention, I hope my laptop doesn't, I got to take this to computer shop. Anyways, there's a garage in the back, a separate garage / storage that would be perfect for an ADU conversion.
Remember what we were just talking about, how like you can improve the property. One is by you improve the property, and one is by rezoning. This is kind of in the same vein, where you're finding a different use for the property, and you're turning a single family home into, in essence, what behaves like a duplex.
Yeah.
Right. And that's awesome. I'm such a fan of ADUs. If you can
Me
pull
too.
off, if you can convert to an ADU, that's just like, I mean, that's just like gold, right? That's just being awesome.
Well, it could be two rental incomes, main
Uh-huh.
house, front house, and then in the back, for sure.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and the looks of it looks like a really big square footage in the back. I don't know exactly how much, but I said that, man, that garage can be, and storage area, I mean, it could be converted. It's separate on its own, a little bit of a distance from the actual house itself. And it won't take away from the car. There's still a big long side driveway that people can park their cars. It's, you know, or street parking, you know?
Yeah, and I got a quick question on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go for it.
Since we're kind of on the subject, is the ADU discussion since this you know up until January of next year, that rezoning to where single families are able to be up to 4 units now? Is that ADU conversation now going to become a duplex conversation or a 3-unit or 4-unit conversation statewide? Is like the zoning in that regard has changed?
Miguel, that is a brilliant question of which I do not know the answer. So why don't we do this at some point here in the next few months as we're all doing this? Let's bring in somebody who's like an expert on ADUs and the new law about the, you know, your neighbor can turn his single family home into a quadplex right next door to you. You know, let's get an expert in here to teach us all about that and all that kind of stuff.
Hey,
So-
we had, in the commercial meetings, we had this discussion already. We had an expert on that. It's not that easy. There are certain things, certain guidelines that you have to follow. It's not like you can do anything you want. You have to do it within certain guidelines.
Yeah.
It's called the SB 9.
Yeah, it's definitely good to hear there at least some kind of restrictions or guidelines, because otherwise any street can turn into an apartment street.
Well, that's what's going to happen no matter what.
Ed, I think it's great if we can get somebody on one of our calls to speak on that. That would be,
Yeah.
it'd be good learning for me. So, you know.
Absolutely. Let's put that
As
together.
Manny said, that, you know, in our business planning sessions, which is in the end of October and November, he's gonna bring the SB 9 and ADU experts.
Okay,
So you might want to attend that.
cool, of course, yeah.
Very cool, you guys. I love it. Yeah, and I'll see if we can get one here on this venue as well. Yeah, they're very cool. All right, we got to wrap it up there because I've got to prep a little bit before my 4 o'clock coaching call. This is awesome. Such a great, I mean, I get so much out of this. I hope you guys do too. Every week as we're doing this. And it's changing how my mind thinks, and hopefully it's doing the same for you. And we're all gonna, you know, build wealth doing it. So great to see you guys. I'll see you again next week. We have our Facebook group. If you guys have follow-up questions, I'll post this calculation we did. I'll post this on there too. And then we'll keep going further. And by the way, Sharon, you were the one that did the new graphic, right? So many thanks to Sharon who did a new graphic for us for the Facebook page. I'll throw that up there when I've got a minute. But good to see you guys. We'll continue next week. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, bye, guys.
Thank you.
Later, David.
Yeah, appreciate it.